The bone saw screamed through Commander Thexis's femur at exactly 0347 hours, Vorthan Standard Time. He watched the medical drone slice through 3 inches of his own leg bone, the titanium blade throwing sparks as it ground against the calcium carbonate matrix his species had evolved over millennia. The pain receptors in his nervous system fired in perfect synchronization, sending waves of agony through his consciousness that would have killed most sentient beings. Thexis counted each pulse of torment like a meditation, knowing that in 72 hours this leg would be 6 inches shorter and perfectly human in every measurable way. The Imperium's biological reconstruction chambers had been perfecting this process for 3,000 years, and he was about to become their masterpiece. The transformation suite on the orbital medical station resembled a cathedral of flesh and metal, its walls lined with tanks containing the genetic material of 47 conquered species. Thexis's body floated in a suspension fluid that tasted of copper and electricity, while nanoscopic machines rewrote his DNA 1 nucleotide at a time. His secondary heart dissolved first, the organ simply melting away as the machines determined it unnecessary for human physiology. His liver restructured itself, abandoning the efficient toxin filtering system that had allowed his people to survive on dozens of hostile worlds. The machines worked with artistic precision, sculpting his alien metabolism into something that would pass every scanner Earth's primitive species possessed. Dr. Valeth monitored the process from a control station overlooking the chamber, his forearms dancing across holographic displays that showed Thexis's biological markers shifting in real time. The cellular restructuring was proceeding ahead of schedule, with bone density dropping to human normal levels and muscle fiber composition adapting to Earth's gravity well. Valeth had supervised over 300 such transformations, but this particular conversion carried significance that extended far beyond routine infiltration protocols. Earth represented the Imperium's next expansion target, a world whose inhabitants had somehow achieved rudimentary space travel despite their laughably fragmented political structure and primitive military doctrine. The genetic template for Marcus Webb had been constructed from tissue samples gathered during the Imperium's initial reconnaissance of Earth's solar system. Intelligence operatives had intercepted human medical waste from their orbital stations, providing enough biological material to create a perfect human identity. The fabricated backstory stretched back 18 years, complete with educational records, medical history, and even childhood psychological evaluations that would satisfy Earth's military academy screening procedures. Webb's parents had allegedly died in a mining accident on Europa, leaving him an orphan whose exceptional test scores had earned him placement in the Federation Naval Academy's incoming class. Thexis's transformation reached its final phase as the machines began reshaping his neural pathways to accommodate human cognitive patterns. The process felt like drowning in reverse, each breath becoming more labored as his respiratory system adapted to process Earth's oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. His vision spectrum narrowed dramatically, losing the infrared and ultraviolet ranges that had made his species such effective hunters. The machines compensated by enhancing his remaining senses within human parameters, ensuring he could pass any biological examination while retaining enough of his original capabilities to complete his mission. 2 additional operatives underwent identical transformations in adjacent chambers, their bodies writhing in synchronized agony as the nanomachines rewrote their fundamental biology. Agent Korvax became David Keller, a 19-year-old human from the Mars colonies whose academic record showed exceptional tactical thinking and leadership potential. Agent Zephyr transformed into Nathan Voss, whose fabricated history included growing up in Earth's Australian continent and developing an obsessive interest in military engineering. All 3 operatives would enter the academy as part of the same incoming class, their carefully constructed identities designed to complement each other while avoiding any suspicious patterns that might attract attention. The mission parameters were elegantly simple, reflecting the Imperium's confidence in their infiltration methodology. The operatives would spend 14 months gathering intelligence on Earth's military capabilities, technological limitations, and defensive strategies. They would document command structures, identify key personnel, and map critical infrastructure that would need to be neutralized during the coming invasion. The Imperium had used this exact approach to conquer 47 worlds, and Earth's chaotic political landscape suggested it would prove even more vulnerable than most targets. Thexis's subcutaneous communication implant activated as the transformation neared completion, its quantum-encrypted signal penetrating the medical station's shielding to reach the battle fleet positioned 3 light-years beyond Earth's outer system. The transmission contained only a simple confirmation code, but its implications resonated through the fleet's command hierarchy. Admiral Corvin received the signal aboard the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, his satisfaction evident as he updated the invasion timeline on his tactical displays. The fleet could maintain its holding position for another 16 months without difficulty, giving the infiltration team adequate time to complete their reconnaissance and extract to safety. The biological reconstruction reached its conclusion as Thexis's alien physiology completed its transformation into something completely human. His enhanced healing factor sealed the surgical incisions, leaving only faint scars that matched the medical history of a young man who had survived numerous childhood accidents. The machines had even implanted false memories of Earth's cultural touchstones, ensuring he could reference popular entertainment, historical events, and social customs with the fluency of a native-born human. He flexed his new human fingers, marveling at their weakness compared to his original appendages, while simultaneously appreciating the delicate precision they offered. The Federation Naval Academy's acceptance letters arrived through Earth's primitive communication networks exactly on schedule, confirming that all 3 operatives had successfully gained admission to the institution. Their academic records showed the kind of exceptional performance that would justify their placement in advanced tactical courses, while their psychological profiles indicated the leadership potential that military instructors valued most highly. Within 72 hours, they would be walking through the Academy's gates as eager young cadets, ready to begin their education in the art of human warfare. Colonel Jackson Reeves noticed the anomaly during Marcus Webb's 3rd day of combat simulations, when the cadets' reaction time to a simulated plasma burst measured 17% faster than human physiological limits allowed. The training facility's sensors recorded Webb diving behind cover before the threat indicator had fully materialized on his display, his body moving with a fluid precision that suggested muscle memory developed over decades rather than the reflexes of a 19-year-old academy freshman. Reeves watched the playback 3 times, his weathered face betraying nothing to the other instructors, while his mind catalogued the impossibility of what he had witnessed. The Academy's morning physical training revealed additional inconsistencies that would have escaped notice from anyone less experienced than Reeves. David Keller completed the obstacle course with a tactical efficiency that incorporated movement patterns no human military doctrine taught, his approach to each barrier suggesting familiarity with combat environments that existed nowhere on Earth or its colonies. When questioned about his technique, Keller attributed his performance to recreational climbing on Mars, but Reeves had spent 2 years stationed on the Red Planet and knew that no civilian climbing could produce such specialized tactical awareness. Nathan Voss presented the most disturbing anomaly during stress testing, when the Academy's medical staff administered controlled pain stimuli to measure psychological breaking points. Standard human physiology dictated that the electrical impulses would produce involuntary muscle contractions and vocalization at predictable intensity levels, but Voss endured the procedure with a stoic calm that suggested either extensive torture conditioning or an alien nervous system adapted to different pain thresholds. His biometric readings showed elevated stress hormones, but his behavioral responses remained eerily controlled throughout the entire procedure. Reeves had spent 37 years in Earth's military, with the last 15 dedicated to a specialized field that officially did not exist. His personnel file listed him as a tactical warfare instructor, but his actual assignment involved monitoring the Academy for signs of non-human infiltration. The Centauri Trade Collective's first contact 23 years earlier had been peaceful, but the encounter had forced Earth's military leadership to acknowledge that humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. The creation of the Strategic Xenological Defense Corps had followed within 18 months, establishing a network of operatives throughout Earth's military infrastructure whose primary mission was detecting and countering alien infiltration attempts. The activation of Protocol 77 Alpha required Reeves to submit biometric confirmation through a quantum-encrypted terminal hidden in his office filing cabinet. The protocol had been designed during the early years of the Defense Corps, when paranoid military planners imagined scenarios where Earth's enemies might use biological mimicry to infiltrate human society. The system required confirmation from at least 3 separate operatives before activation, ensuring that false alarms would not trigger unnecessary security breaches. Reeves's transmission joined confirmations from Dr. Sarah Mitchell in the Academy's medical facility and Commander Tom Harrison in the communications department, both of whom had observed their own anomalies in the 3 suspect cadets. The Defense Corps network responded with characteristic efficiency, transforming the Academy's routine educational mission into an elaborate counterintelligence operation within 72 hours. Instructors who had spent years maintaining their civilian covers suddenly found themselves coordinating the most complex deception campaign in human history, while maintaining the facade of normal military training. The Academy's maintenance staff received new assignments that involved installing sophisticated surveillance equipment disguised as routine infrastructure upgrades, while the cafeteria workers began adding specialized chemical traces to the food supply that would reveal any non-human metabolic processes. Major Lisa Thompson, the Academy's official psychology instructor, had actually spent the previous decade developing interrogation techniques for use on non-human subjects. Her civilian academic credentials were genuine, but her specialized training in xenopsychology came from classified research programs that studied captured alien technology and biological samples. Thompson began implementing subtle psychological evaluation procedures on the 3 suspect cadets, using conversation techniques designed to reveal cognitive patterns that might indicate non-human thought processes. Her initial assessment suggested that all 3 subjects possessed unusual emotional regulation capabilities and demonstrated problem-solving approaches that deviated from standard human cognitive patterns. The transformation of the Academy into a counterintelligence theater required the cooperation of faculty members who had maintained their covers so effectively that even their colleagues remained unaware of their true assignments. Professor James Morrison, who taught military history, had spent 5 years studying alien invasion patterns documented by Earth's deep space monitoring G stations. His seemingly academic lectures on historical warfare contained subtle references to tactical concepts that would be familiar to any species that had studied human military doctrine, creating opportunities to observe how the suspect cadets responded to information that should have been completely foreign to them. The Defense Corps established a secure communication network that bypassed the Academy's normal channels, allowing operatives to coordinate their activities without alerting the suspected infiltrators. The network used quantum-encrypted signals that were theoretically impossible to intercept, but the operatives knew that any species capable of biological mimicry might also possess advanced communication interception capabilities. Every message was coded using linguistic patterns that incorporated Earth-specific cultural references, ensuring that any intercepted communications would appear to be routine administrative correspondence. Reeves found himself studying the 3 cadets with the intensity of a predator observing potential prey, noting every behavioral quirk and physiological anomaly that might reveal their true nature. Webb's sleeping patterns deviated from human circadian rhythms, with biometric monitors showing brief periods of complete neural inactivity that resembled alien hibernation states rather than normal human sleep cycles. Keller demonstrated knowledge of star navigation techniques that were not taught in any human educational institution, while Voss displayed an intuitive understanding of alien technology that he encountered during technical training exercises. The Academy's routine training exercises became carefully orchestrated performance pieces designed to test the limits of the suspect's ability to maintain their human disguises. Combat scenarios incorporated stresses that would challenge any species' capacity for biological mimicry, while academic examinations included questions that could only be answered correctly by someone with access to non-human knowledge systems. The operatives watched every response, catalogued every anomaly, and prepared for the moment when their carefully constructed trap would reveal the true nature of their uninvited guests. The fabricated weapons testing facility materialized in the Academy's lower levels like a stage set designed to deceive gods. Colonel Reeves watched through concealed cameras as Marcus Webb and his companions accessed the supposedly classified laboratory, their biometric scanners reading fabricated security clearances that suggested the three cadets had somehow earned access to Earth's most advanced military technology. The room they entered contained carefully aged equipment that had been deliberately designed to appear cutting-edge while remaining decades behind humanity's actual capabilities. Each device calibrated to provide convincing demonstrations of what the aliens would expect from a primitive species struggling to master basic energy weapons. Webb's fingers traced the control panels of a mock fusion cannon with the reverence of someone examining a divine artifact, his enhanced vision scanning components that had been specifically constructed to appear revolutionary to alien observers. The weapon's specifications, encoded in fabricated technical manuals, suggested that humanity had only recently mastered controlled fusion reactions and was still struggling to weaponize the technology effectively. The cannon's power output readings indicated it could barely penetrate standard starship armor, a limitation that would make Earth's defenses appear laughably inadequate against any serious military threat. The first stage training exercise began at dawn, with cadets assembling in the Academy's main courtyard to witness a demonstration of humanity's supposedly most advanced combat technology. The Defense Corps had spent weeks preparing the performance, using deliberately obsolete equipment that would convince watching alien spies that Earth's military remained trapped in an earlier technological era. The demonstration featured kinetic projectile weapons that fired metal slugs at supersonic speeds, impressive by ancient standards, but primitive compared to the energy-based weapons that most spacefaring civilizations had developed millennia ago. David Keller observed the weapon demonstrations with the analytical detachment of a professional intelligence operative, his enhanced cognitive processing calculating the tactical implications of each system's apparent limitations. The human soldiers struggled to achieve accuracy beyond 300 meters with their primitive rifles, while their heavy weapons required crew-served operation and demonstrated vulnerability to electronic interference. The display confirmed what Vorthan reconnaissance had suggested. Earth's military remained dependent on crude chemical propellants and basic metallurgy, technologies that would prove useless against the Imperium's advanced defensive systems. The Academy's computer networks had been transformed into an elaborate digital theater, with fabricated databases containing thousands of technical specifications that painted a picture of humanity's technological limitations. The files detailed Earth's struggling efforts to develop faster-than-light communication, their failed attempts to create artificial gravity, and their ongoing research into basic forces. E-field technology. Each document bore the authentic digital signatures of real human scientists, created through careful forgery that would pass any verification system the aliens might employ. Nathan Voss spent hours in the Academy's technical library, accessing databases that revealed humanity's apparent dependence on fossil fuels and primitive nuclear fission for energy generation. The files described Earth's early experiments with fusion power, portraying the technology as experimental and unreliable, while completely omitting any reference to the zero-point energy extraction systems that actually powered humanity's most advanced installations. The deception was so complete that even the library's automated systems had been programmed to provide corroborating evidence for every fabricated technological limitation. Meanwhile, 3 levels beneath the Academy's foundation, the real cadets continued their education in facilities that existed in complete isolation from the theater above. The underground complex housed training equipment that demonstrated humanity's actual technological capabilities, including quantum-encrypted communication systems that operated faster than light and gravitational manipulation devices that could alter local space-time. The genuine cadets learned to operate weapons that fired coherent energy beams capable of penetrating any known armor, while their alien observers above remained convinced that humanity's most advanced weapons were chemical-powered projectiles. The Defense Corps operatives maintained their elaborate deception through careful coordination that required split-second timing and perfect execution. When Webb attempted to access restricted technical specifications, hidden operators ensured that he received falsified documents that reinforced the illusion of Earth's technological inferiority. Every computer terminal, every training manual, and every casual conversation had been scripted to provide consistent evidence that humanity remained centuries behind the technological curve that most galactic civilizations had achieved. The most sophisticated element of the deception involved the staged war games that allowed the alien spies to observe human tactical doctrine in action. The exercises featured deliberately flawed strategies that emphasized conventional military thinking, while completely avoiding any reference to the adaptive warfare techniques that humanity had actually developed. The human forces demonstrated predictable movement patterns, relied on vulnerable supply lines, and showed no awareness of the advanced sensor technologies that would make such tactics suicidal in real combat against a technologically superior enemy. Reeves orchestrated the entire operation from a command center that officially did not exist, monitoring every interaction between the alien spies and their carefully prepared environment. His teams had spent months creating a parallel reality that would satisfy the aliens' intelligence requirements while revealing nothing of value about Earth's true capabilities. The fabricated world they had constructed showed a human civilization that had achieved basic spaceflight through primitive chemical rockets, developed rudimentary energy weapons through trial and error, and remained completely dependent on conventional materials and technologies. The aliens' regular transmission schedule provided the Defense Corps with precise intelligence about Vorthan communication protocols, encryption methods, and strategic priorities. Each message that Webb sent to his distant fleet contained carefully curated information that would reinforce the Imperium's confidence in their invasion plans, while simultaneously revealing their own technological capabilities and tactical preferences. The Defense Corps monitored every transmission, gradually building a comprehensive picture of the alien fleet's composition, weapon systems, and strategic weaknesses. The deception campaign's success depended on maintaining perfect consistency across every aspect of the aliens' experience at the Academy. The cafeteria served food that appeared to be processed using primitive agricultural techniques, while actually being produced by advanced molecular assemblers that could create any desired nutritional profile. The Academy's medical facility used equipment that appeared to rely on crude surgical techniques and basic pharmaceutical treatments, while secretly administering neural suppressants that would prevent the aliens from accessing their biological self-destruct capabilities when the time came for their capture. The extraction request arrived through quantum-encrypted channels at 0237 hours on a Tuesday morning, 11 months after the three operatives had first walked through the Academy's gates. Marcus Webb's transmission to the Vorthan fleet carried the weight of completed intelligence gathering, his coded message indicating that Earth's defensive capabilities had been thoroughly assessed and catalogued. The message contained tactical assessments that painted humanity as a species barely capable of defending its own orbital installations, let alone mounting resistance against the Imperium's invasion fleet. Webb requested immediate extraction for himself and his companions, claiming that continued observation would yield no additional strategic value. Colonel Reeves read the intercepted transmission with the satisfaction of a chess master watching his opponent walk into a carefully prepared trap. The Defense Corps had been monitoring every alien communication for months, building a comprehensive understanding of Vorthan encryption protocols and communication procedures. The extraction request represented the culmination of their counterintelligence operation, the moment when the aliens' confidence in their mission's success would transform into their greatest vulnerability. Reeves authorized the extraction immediately, knowing that the aliens' eagerness to escape would blind them to the true nature of their situation. The extraction vessel that responded to Webb's transmission appeared to be a standard Vorthan stealth ship. its hull configuration matching the specifications that Defense Corps analysts had reconstructed from intercepted technical data. The ship's approach vector followed standard alien infiltration protocols, maintaining complete electromagnetic silence while using gravitational manipulation to avoid detection by primitive human sensors. Webb and his companions boarded the vessel through a hidden airlock in the Academy's maintenance tunnels, believing they were finally escaping the tedious months of observation and deception that their mission had required. The ship's interior matched every detail of Vorthan design philosophy, from the organic curves of the bulkheads to the bioluminescent control panels that responded to touch with characteristic alien sensitivity. Webb felt the familiar vibration of Vorthan engines engaging, their harmonic frequency resonating through his modified bones in a way that triggered memories of his original physiology. The vessel's navigation systems displayed their projected course to the rendezvous point where the invasion fleet waited, showing estimated arrival time and fuel consumption calculations that appeared completely authentic. Captain Torres, the Defense Corps operative who commanded the captured vessel, maintained perfect control over every aspect of the deception while hidden in the ship's genuine command center. The vessel had been taken intact during a border skirmish 2 years earlier, its crew eliminated, and its systems reverse-engineered by Earth's most brilliant xenotechnologists. Torres's team had spent months learning to operate the alien technology, studying every control system and navigation protocol until they could pilot the ship with the same proficiency as its original crew. The journey proceeded according to standard Vorthan extraction procedures, with the ship following established flight patterns that would avoid detection by any human monitoring systems. Webb and his companions spent the transit time preparing their intelligence reports, compiling months of observations into comprehensive assessments that would guide the invasion fleet's tactical planning. Their reports detailed Earth's military command structure, catalogued humanity's apparent technological limitations, and identified key strategic targets that would need to be neutralized during the initial assault. The first indication that something was wrong came when the ship's navigation displays began showing course corrections that deviated from their expected trajectory. Webb questioned the pilot about the changes, receiving explanations about navigational hazards and patrol routes that required temporary alterations to their flight path. The explanations seemed reasonable, but Webb's enhanced intuition began detecting inconsistencies in the ship's behavior that suggested they were not following standard Vorthan operational procedures. The revelation came when the navigation system's main display suddenly showed their true destination: Lunar Station, humanity's most heavily fortified military installation and the secret headquarters of the Strategic Xenological Defense Corps. The coordinates appeared on the screen with crystalline clarity, showing that they had been traveling toward Earth's moon rather than the rendezvous point where the invasion fleet waited. Webb's physiological modifications included enhanced adrenal glands that flooded his system with combat stimulants, but even his alien biochemistry could not prepare him for the psychological impact of realizing that their entire mission had been compromised. The three operatives attempted to activate their biological self-destruct protocols simultaneously, their modified nervous systems sending the chemical signals that would trigger catastrophic cellular breakdown and prevent their capture. The protocols had been engineered into every Vorthan infiltrator as the ultimate security measure, ensuring that no operative could be taken alive with knowledge of the Imperium's capabilities and strategic plans. Webb felt the familiar burning sensation as his modified organs began producing the toxins that would destroy his brain tissue within seconds. The neural suppressants that had been administered through the Academy's food supply for months proved their effectiveness by completely neutralizing the aliens' self-destruct capabilities. The Defense Corps had identified the specific biochemical pathways that Vorthan physiology used for emergency termination, developing countermeasures that would prevent the aliens from escaping through suicide while preserving their cognitive functions for interrogation. The operatives experienced the psychological terror of being trapped in bodies that would not obey their final commands, their alien minds confronting the reality that they had been outmaneuvered by a species they had considered primitive. Lunar stations' interrogation facilities had been designed specifically for non-human subjects, incorporating quantum neural interface technology that could access alien memory systems without damaging the underlying biological structures. The interrogation chambers used field generators that created localized space-time distortions, allowing human interrogators to access alien thought processes at the quantum level, where conscious deception became impossible. Webb found himself connected to machines that peeled away layers of his consciousness like an onion, exposing every piece of intelligence he had gathered about the Imperium's invasion plans. The extraction process yielded comprehensive intelligence about the Vorthan fleet's composition, revealing that the invasion force consisted of 47 capital ships supported by over 300 smaller vessels. The aliens' tactical doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower delivered through coordinated assault patterns, with their bio-adaptive armor designed to counter the energy weapons that most civilizations employed. Their command structure followed rigid hierarchical patterns that made them vulnerable to decapitation strikes, while their communication protocols relied on quantum-encrypted channels that could be disrupted using the proper interference patterns. The Vorthan invasion fleet materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system with the precision of a perfectly choreographed death sentence, their massive vessels dropping out of hyperspace in formations that had conquered 47 worlds without significant resistance. Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching his tactical displays populate with target acquisition data as his fleet sensors mapped what appeared to be a defenseless system populated by primitive humans who had barely achieved interplanetary travel. The fleet's bio-adaptive armor gleamed with organic patterns that had evolved over millennia to counter energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, and every form of attack that galactic civilizations had developed. Earth's orbital stations appeared on the Vorthan sensors as pathetically vulnerable targets, their basic metal construction and primitive communication arrays confirming the intelligence reports that had described humanity as a species struggling with rudimentary space technology. The planet's surface showed no evidence of planetary defense grids, no energy signatures that might indicate advanced weapon systems, and no trace of the sophisticated shielding that protected more advanced worlds. Corvin's tactical officers calculated that the entire invasion could be completed within 6 hours, with most of that time spent on the tedious process of cataloging surrendered human populations for processing. The first indication that something was wrong came when Earth's communication networks began transmitting surrender offers on frequencies that no human civilization should have known how to access. The messages used Vorthan diplomatic protocols that were classified at the highest levels of imperial security, delivered in perfect High Vorthan with linguistic subtleties that suggested the speakers had studied the language for decades. Admiral Corvin felt his secondary heart skip a beat as he realized that the humans were not only aware of his fleet's arrival, but possessed knowledge of Vorthan culture that should have been impossible for a primitive species to acquire. The gravitational weapon platforms revealed themselves with the understated elegance of a master magician's final trick, their cloaking fields dissipating to show a constellation of defensive installations that surrounded Earth's solar system like a three-dimensional spider web. The platforms had been positioned at gravitational equilibrium points that allowed them to maintain stable orbits while remaining completely invisible to conventional sensors. Each installation was the size of a small city, its surface covered with weapons that seemed to bend space around themselves in ways that violated everything the Vorthans understood about physics. Commander Thexis, watching from the Eternal Dominion's tactical center, felt his artificially modified stomach clench as he recognized the technology that humanity was revealing. The gravitational manipulation devices were centuries beyond anything the Imperium had developed, their power signatures suggesting they could alter local space-time in ways that would make conventional weapons utterly useless. The platforms drew energy from zero-point extraction systems that tapped directly into the quantum foam underlying reality, providing them with essentially unlimited power for sustained combat operations. The first salvo from Earth's defensive network struck the Vorthan fleet with the force of controlled stellar collapse, gravitational waves that compressed space itself to crush the leading edge of the invasion formation. The bio-adaptive armor that had protected Vorthan vessels for millennia proved completely useless against weapons that attacked the fundamental structure of reality rather than the physical hulls of the ships. 3 dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist as their constituent atoms were compressed beyond the point where molecular bonds could maintain cohesion. Admiral Corvin screamed orders to his fleet as more of his vessels vanished into gravitational singularities that appeared and disappeared like cosmic fireflies. The Vorthan tactical doctrine called for immediate dispersal in the face of unexpected resistance, but the gravitational weapons were tracking his ships faster than they could maneuver. The quantum AI systems controlling Earth's defenses processed tactical data at speeds that made organic thought seem glacial, predicting Vorthan movement patterns and adjusting firing solutions with inhuman precision. The battle became a systematic dismantling of 3 millennia of Vorthan military supremacy, each salvo from the defensive platforms demonstrating technological superiority that made the invaders' weapons appear primitive by comparison. The Imperium's energy cannons fired concentrated plasma that dissipated harmlessly against gravitational fields that redirected the attacks into empty space. Their kinetic projectiles followed ballistic trajectories that were altered by space-time distortions, causing the weapons to miss their targets by impossible margins. The Eternal Dominion's bridge erupted in chaos as tactical officers realized that their fleet was being destroyed by an enemy they could not effectively engage. The gravitational weapons operated at ranges that exceeded the maximum effective distance of Vorthan artillery, while their targeting systems seemed to anticipate every evasive maneuver that the invasion fleet attempted. Corvin watched his formation collapse as capital ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were reduced to expanding clouds of superheated gas. The artificial wormhole that engulfed the Eternal Dominion opened directly beneath the flagship like a mouth of distorted space-time, its event horizon expanding to engulf the massive vessel before Admiral Corvin could issue retreat orders. The sensation of being pulled through folded space felt like drowning in liquid mathematics, every atom of the ship's structure being analyzed and catalogued by forces that existed beyond normal physics. The wormhole transported the intact vessel through 11 dimensions of space-time, depositing it in Earth's secure shipyards where human technicians waited with cutting tools and neural interfaces. The remaining Vorthan vessels scattered in all directions, their crews panicking as they realized that their supposedly primitive enemy possessed weapons that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. The few ships that escaped the initial assault found themselves pursued by gravitational fields that moved faster than light, their hulls being compressed into dense matter that would eventually be recycled into construction materials for Earth's expanding defense. Network. The 18-minute engagement had transformed the most powerful invasion fleet in Vorthan history into a collection of spare parts and traumatized survivors. The quantum AI systems that had coordinated Earth's defense began analyzing the captured alien technology with the methodical precision of digital archaeologists, their processing cores cataloging every component and system aboard the destroyed vessels. The gravitational weapons platforms powered down their main arrays, but remained at combat readiness, their sensors scanning deep space for any sign of Vorthan reinforcements. The solar system had been transformed from a potential battleground into a fortress that could withstand assault from any conceivable enemy. The captured Vorthan command ship hung in Earth's orbital shipyards like a technological cathedral waiting to be dissected by humanity's most brilliant xeno-engineers. Director Jackson Reeves, promoted from his colonel's rank after the 18-minute war, walked through the Eternal Dominion's corridors with the reverence of someone exploring an alien temple. The ship's bio-adaptive hull had been designed to evolve defensive countermeasures against any weapon system, but its organic components had proven helpless against gravitational forces that attacked reality itself rather than mere matter. Every bulkhead and control panel represented decades of advancement that humanity could reverse engineer and improve upon. The interrogation of the captured Vorthan operatives had yielded intelligence that transformed Earth's understanding of galactic civilization from a collection of scattered observations into a comprehensive strategic map. The quantum neural interfaces had extracted memories spanning centuries of imperial conquest, revealing the locations of 47 worlds that had been systematically stripped of their resources and populations. The Vorthan expansion pattern followed predictable routes between star systems, with each conquered world serving as a staging ground for attacks on neighboring civilizations that lacked the technology to mount effective resistance. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the xenotechnologist who had spent her career preparing for this moment, supervised teams of engineers as they carefully dismantled the Eternal Dominion's faster-than-light drive systems. The Vorthan hyperdrive operated on principles that human science had theorized but never successfully implemented, using controlled gravitational collapse to fold space-time and achieve instantaneous travel between distant points. The drive's power requirements exceeded anything Earth's fusion reactors could provide, but the captured zero-point energy extractors offered a solution that would make interstellar travel routine rather than experimental. The first test of humanity's reverse-engineered hyperdrive took place in the asteroid belt, where a modified Defense Corps corvette disappeared into folded space and reappeared 3 light-years away near the Centauri system. The vessel's crew reported that the journey had taken subjective seconds, while external observers recorded the ship's absence as lasting 17 minutes. The successful test proved that humanity could now project military force across interstellar distances, transforming Earth from an isolated world into a potential galactic power. The strategic implications of humanity's technological leap became clear when xenoarchaeologists began analyzing data cores recovered from the destroyed Vorthan vessels. The Imperial archives contained detailed records of every world the Vorthans had conquered, including population estimates, resource extraction schedules, and defensive capabilities. The conquered civilizations ranged from primitive agricultural societies to spacefaring cultures that had achieved limited interstellar travel, all of them overwhelmed by the Imperium's superior technology and ruthless expansion doctrine. The world designated as Kepler 442b had been a thriving democracy of aquatic humanoids whose crystalline cities had been reduced to slave labor camps within months of Imperial conquest. The planet's population had dropped from 8 billion to 2 billion as the Vorthans systematically eliminated anyone with technical knowledge or leadership capabilities. The surviving inhabitants worked in underwater mining facilities that extracted rare minerals for the Imperial war machine, their lifespans reduced to mere decades by the hazardous conditions and inadequate nutrition. Director Reeves stood in the Strategic Planning Center, studying holographic displays that showed the locations of every Vorthan-occupied world within 50 light-years of Earth. The conquest pattern revealed systematic brutality that had been refined over millennia, with each invasion following identical protocols designed to break the will of defending populations. The Vorthans eliminated military leaders first, then scientists and engineers, followed by anyone who might organize resistance movements. The survivors became a workforce optimized for resource extraction rather than cultural preservation. The liberation campaign would require careful coordination between Earth's military forces and indigenous resistance movements that had somehow survived decades of Imperial occupation. Intelligence gathered from captured Vorthan communications revealed that several conquered worlds maintained underground networks that had been waiting for external assistance. The resistance groups possessed detailed knowledge of Imperial installations and troop movements, but lacked the weapons and technology needed to mount effective operations against their occupiers. The first liberation target was chosen for its strategic location and symbolic importance to the Vorthan Empire. The world of Zerion III had been the capital, all of a peaceful confederation that had ruled 12 systems before the Imperial conquest 60 years earlier. The planet's population of silicon-based humanoids had been reduced to 1/10 of their original numbers, but their survivors included former military officers who had maintained detailed plans for retaking their world. The Zerion resistance possessed complete intelligence about every Imperial installation on their planet, including the locations of weapons depots and command centers. The Liberation fleet that departed Earth consisted of 12 vessels equipped with gravitational weapons and crewed by volunteers who had spent months studying Vorthan tactical doctrine. The ships carried humanitarian supplies for the liberated populations, along with advanced medical equipment that could treat the various forms of biological damage that Imperial occupation had inflicted. The fleet's primary mission was military, but Director Reeves had insisted that liberation operations must include immediate relief for the conquered populations. The journey to Zarion 3 took the Liberation fleet through regions of space that had been under Imperial control for decades, passing star systems where entire civilizations had been reduced to industrial colonies. The fleet's sensors detected the gravitational signatures of Imperial patrol ships, but the Vorthan vessels fled rather than engaging the approaching Earth forces. Word of the 18-minute war had spread through Imperial communication networks, creating a psychological advantage that made Vorthan commanders reluctant to face human weapons. The liberation of Zarion 3 began with gravitational strikes that eliminated every Imperial installation on the planet's surface within the first hour of the engagement. The Vorthan garrison had been prepared for conventional assault, but their defensive positions proved useless against weapons that could collapse matter at the quantum level. The planet's silicon-based population emerged from underground shelters to witness the systematic destruction of the occupation forces that had oppressed them for 6 decades. The success of the first liberation operation established a pattern that would be repeated throughout the former Imperial territories. Each liberated world provided intelligence about neighboring systems, while their grateful populations offered resources and volunteers for the expanding liberation campaign. Humanity's transformation from a defensive species to a galactic liberation force had been completed in less than 2 years, with Earth's gravitational weapons making resistance to Imperial forces obsolete. The galaxy would remember the day when humanity stopped hiding and started fighting back. If you enjoyed watching aliens discover that humanity's greatest deception is appearing weaker than we actually are, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories where humans are the ones doing the surprising.